Hey guys, how's it going? Rams here again with another Pro League, excuse me, North American League VOD review, Professional Rainbow Six. We have SSG versus Eunited from Playday 1. I will slowly get to every single match, guys. I promise. If you guys want me to do a match, fast, like before another match, like let's say like I'm still on Playday 2s, but you guys really want me to do a review on something that happens on Playday 3 or something like that, then just let me know in the comments section and I'll be sure to read it and get to it. This is the second map. SSG is up in map count 1-0 at this point in the series. Um, the bans are Hibana, Maverick, Valkyrie, and Maestro. And just something I didn't mention during the last video, Echo is actually permanently banned right now because of there's a glitch with his Echo drones to where they are partially invulnerable at times, which is a big problem in competitive play. So the developers decided that they needed to just shut Echo off for a little bit until they can fix that, which is leading to a lot of interesting bans and in multiple matches, throughout the first few play days. Um, but anyway, moving on to this match. This match is interesting overall for a multitude of reasons. And one, it's a double hard breach. Maverick and Hibana are gone. That only leaves Thermite to open walls. Um, and even though it's a double hard breach ban, there's still a big issue with both defenses not being able to prevent walls from getting opened. More United than SSG from what I have watched this match already. Like there's just some strange things going on. Like a couple different reinforcements I thought I would never see in a pro league match. Like the walls in garage right here during this round in particular, both of these walls are reinforced. Normally we see a rotate hole in this position here so that this defender can rotate back and the other defenders can hold angles from cache onto the rafters. But that doesn't seem to be the case, and it doesn't seem to, bother SSG at all. United running a clash this round is, not typical, but it actually works out in their favor. And the thing that I'm really confused about more than anything is a little bit of the positioning. So obviously, you know, if like I'll just explain it this way. If there's only thermite available as a hard breach, I don't think it's reasonable for EU to try to have these like very extended holds with Cade and things. Like I honestly think that bringing Bandit is a better choice than just juggling the wall. If it's only thermite, you can juggle the wall pretty easily. Like even when Hibana's on the board, you can open the top rafters and shoot Capital bolts over to the bandit to prevent him from juggling, or Zofia through the drone hole to prevent the juggle, which is like typical ways to stop bandit from juggling and get the wall open. But it's just so interesting to me that those are not things that are considered at all in any of E United's defenses. And these two walls being reinforced here kind of gives SSG potentially the green light to just say, like, hey, the guy in garage is on an island. We can just push him. So that's exactly what they do. They all rotate over to the garage and they, come inside they already have control of stock. So they come into stock and they start, you know, pressuring the player in garage. Forrest does do a good job of getting a frag here. So he's done his job pretty much at this point. But it's just interesting how some of these defensive rounds play out. And E United do end up winning this round, and I think it's more because of SSG like not really knowing how to attack. This is just a weird scenario for them to be in, where they have the wall open, but they don't have the wall open in order to pressure the player on the rafters. So you see them kind of stacking up and trying to figure out like, okay, like how are we going to get this player out of the rafters? We have to get him out of there. We can't push the site with him there. But what they do is they end up flooding the site, right? They flood the site. Canadian runs in to go for plant. He ends up getting killed by Forrest from the window here, but I'm pretty sure either Rampy or Fultz trade him. So the idea is when the push comes in, We got a crossfire between Fultz and Rampy, and then Thinking Nate is coming in from the bottom of the garage as Jaeger is engaging the planter. So Thinking Nate trades out Forest. Rampy pushes in but is getting stopped by the Clash. Now Falma sets off a C4 prematurely, which could have lost them the round if they would have just thrown their if he would have just thrown the C4 at the default plant spot instead of trying to catch someone running into the building at that moment. They could have won the round right then and there. But instead we get this strange scramble where Clash is in sight fighting against Sledge and Zofia by himself and ends up winning the round based on a TK. Sometimes that kind of stuff happens. It's always unfortunate when we see a TK during a round, especially for attackers, but there really wasn't much they could do. So basically Eunited win the round based off of some different reinforcements, and I think it was to mainly prevent a double-sided attack from SSG coming from the gym, taking control of construction and opening the cache wall after they get the cache wall open, or the server wall open as well, which is fine. They can do that, but I don't think SSG would commit that much pressure to the opposite side of the map since they only have one hard breach up. But I guess Eunited has to play that way to keep them honest. Like if they give SSG opportunities, they might just jump on them and take it. And it's better to have an attack coming from one direction as opposed to an attack coming from multiple directions when you're on defense. But I still can't help but think that it's just strange. I also think it's strange that Eunited opt to go master bedroom and gym second because they already won the first round. In my opinion, you should just go downstairs. Downstairs on Clubhouse with a double hard breach ban is the best and most easily defendable bomb site on the map by far. But there's also the mentality that they might be expecting us to go downstairs. Let's go master and try to throw them off. But one thing that you have to notice about SSG throughout this entire map, they never change their operator lineup once. They pick Thatcher, Capital, Sledge, Thermite, and Zofia every single round. They know how to attack every single bomb site on this map with these operators. They don't need anything else, which is commendable because then it instead of picking certain operators to potentially, exploit a certain defense's weakness, they end up just knowing how to attack everything. Also, it's kind of strange to see Yeti throw C4 like that. Like, he has pulse. Like, he should know that Sledge is no longer at the hatch. But what do I know? These are just casual observations. So Eunited want to take control, or excuse me, I'm sorry. SSG want to take control from the from the server side. My goodness, words are hard. And they already have top garage control, and they already have the server wall open. Now here's where things get a little strange. Hopefully it'll give me a top-down view here in just a second. But basically, I can't rewind it to show exactly what I'm talking about, but this is what I find to be strange about this setup. So obviously, SSG has to take control of this area so they can be covered on the windows on the south side of master bedroom and gym. They have to take control of this area and put pressure here in order to prevent flanks. Here's what I don't understand about the way Eunited are setting up. They have a rotate hole here, and they reinforce these two walls instead of reinforcing one of the walls here, so that SSG would have to open this wall if they want to take control of cache. They've already made SSG waste their utility here. Like, they've already made them waste an exothermic charge. So what's the point of holding this area if SSG is just gonna open this? Like, if they fall back to site now, SSG has to, say they don't reinforce this and then play impact grenades here, then SSG potentially loses their thermite charge that they need, because if they can't open this wall with one thermite, they have to rotate and to go to the jacuzzi wall and open that with the other thermite. So in this instance, not playing impacts inside of cache and basically giving them a free way to take control of cache gives them so much free real estate that they can play with. And you'll see later in the round that SSG, they end up rotating over to Jacuzzi and just opening it. Like, there's nothing stopping them. This is what I'm talking about when I say, like, there's some really strange, like, decisions made by the defenders on both sides during this game that, like, kind of left me scratching my head in a sense. Like, I understand that it's really easy and, like, kind of played out to play Bandit in some of these locations, but you can't deny that it is effective to a certain extent, and it's especially effective if you bring Wamai and if you force the attackers to use up their utility. Like if they only have one hard breacher as an option, why wouldn't you force them into a style that's more predictable for you? That's the question I'm asking. But like I said, like, I don't know everything. These are just observations that I'm making based off of some educated guesses. Eunited played that site very aggressive, which I don't think is necessarily bad, but it didn't work for them. So they kind of need to kind of take it back to the strat book in a way and decide, like, how can we make that site more favorable to us? Because personally, I think that the way SSG defends that objective is the way you should play it every single time. Like, I don't see any reason to play it any different. But I don't think there's necessarily a right way or a wrong way in some instances, but there are definitely some cases, and especially with the double hard breach ban, where, like, certain things are just better than others. And I kind of have to scratch my head a little bit at some of the ways that United is, playing it. So, onto the downstairs defense. They're bringing Clash. With multiple hard breachers, this would be a lot easier to attack, but it's not. Because the idea here that I can imagine is that Clash is going to be playing inside of blue. The attackers want to take blue control because it locks down defender rotations from one site into the other from multiple avenues and rotation holes. I'm pretty sure what Eunited had in mind here was that Clash and Jaeger would play inside of blue and delay them for as long as possible, right? And then SSG would eventually either have to waste Thatchers on the top of blue, or they wouldn't have enough Thatchers to open up the Moto hatch, which is what Forest tries to keep closed for a long time, because they can impact trick the kitchen hatch if they want, or they could potentially stop it from a various multitude of angles. Callout has impact grenades to stop the kitchen hatch from getting opened up, so it's not that big a deal. And there's a ton of ADSs in blue, and I'm pretty sure Yeti has all three laid out. I thought he might have pocketed one in case if a Thatcher goes off. But the idea is that they want Thinking Nade to use his Thatchers so that he doesn't have Thatchers to open the Moto hatch. But that's not going to fool SSG. They're just going to use two Thatchers on the Moto hatch and then Capital Bolt blue. So, even though they traded and Zophia's gone, and it should guarantee them, like, a much better chance of winning based on the fact that Clash now technically has no counter other than Capital, and I don't consider Capital to be, like, a direct counter to Clash. Capital is a direct counter to Jaeger. He also kind of counters Clash. It's a weird dynamic, but I'm sure you guys understand what I'm saying. Like, now if a Capital bolt hit Clash's shield and, like, caught the shield on fire and killed her instantly, it'd be a direct counter, but it's just not. So basically, Moto hatch gets opened up, and then Canadian and Thinking Nade run over to dirt and open up dirt. And this is one of those situations where, like, it doesn't look good for the attack. Like, in my opinion, the defense has such a better position here that I don't see how they're able to pull this off. There's going to be Legion mines in dirt. The kitchen hatch is still closed. And, there's no way for the attackers to gain like a great foothold here, except for Thinking Nade holding the main rotation at the door. Basically, because Thinking Nade is holding this, he's splitting off 2 defenders in each side. And if the attackers say, all right, 4 of us are going to push this objective, they should trade out and make it 2 versus 2 at the end and win. They're somehow able to push in off a great play from Rampy, and then Forrest is just, caught in no man's land inside of Church. So basically, Forrest is trying to watch the moto push, and the whole rest of his team dies in Armory and Blue. And there's nothing that he can do to stop it at the end. So SSG are able to win even with only 1 hard breach, which is still like partially baffling to me that they're able to do that. And it's just because they have a more optimal operator selection on attack every single round. It's the same operators on attack every single round. They're not worried about anything because they have an operator for every instance. If there's players playing on the west side of the armory, they have Sledge. If there's players playing in blue, they have Capitao and Zofia and Sledge potentially with grenades, depending on how they need to get rid of that player. It's a pick your poison kind of scenario. So now Eunited go back to Cache, the site that they won. They don't bring a Clash this time. And they also make more optimal rotates. They make the rotate in the top of the rafters. They place more typical reinforcements, and they bring a Wamai to play inside a garage, which I like, but they're still not bringing the Bandit. And I know that like you guys are going to be like, come on, give it a rest, Rams. They don't need Bandit. They have other operators. They don't need to do that stuff. All I'm saying is that if they were to bring Bandit, they would guarantee utility being wasted for the purpose of getting the Bandit off the wall, and Bandit doesn't even have to play that aggressively. The threat of Bandit tricking the wall alone will force Zofia and Capitao potentially to utilize their utility to remove him from the scenario. And in this meta in particular, like SSG need all the utility they can get because they only have 1 hard breach. They can only open up 1, at most 2 reinforcements, which on Clubhouse is a big problem for the attackers. So Forrest is playing in the top of rafters with Wamai specifically for the purpose of stopping Capitao bolts from flushing him out of his position. I like that play. I like that idea. And I'd say that in a lot of instances, it does work very well. But right now, SSG's primary focus is taking control of the bottom of the objective so that they can potentially pressure from below. And if Bandit was juggling, they could just stop him from juggling below, which is what they're doing right now. They're just hitting the wall preemptively, thinking like, if they do have a Bandit, we don't know. If they do have one, though, we're removing him and we're opening the wall. So now Canadian opens the wall. Fultz rotates out and trades positions with, or no, I'm sorry, Rampy's going to push into stock now, I believe, or either into blue. It's really just wherever they want to maintain that level of control. But Fultz is outside of the wall to burn ADSs and Wamai so that they can get rid of the shield. They didn't need to do that, so Rampy's going up to the roof while Bosco stays at the server window to cut off that rotate. Forrest is still in the garage right now, and Callout and Grixer are inside of Cache. Basically, with the server wall open and they see Wamai playing inside a garage, they've opted to attack from the opposite direction and try to open up the Cache wall. So, Yeti trades out Alfalma for Rampy. And then I'm not quite sure how the round plays out here, but basically Canadian just wins the fight. But I'm not sure how he was able to get to that point. I don't know where he came from, but he either must have been outside of the gym wall or at the jacuzzi window. But now either way, Canadian is going to come open up the Cache wall. and Thatcher still has an EMP. You only needed to use one at the wall, and probably maybe even not any at all. Thinking it gets a pick off onto Grixer, and Bosco cleans him up at the server window, cutting off rotation. So basically, because they were still able to open up 2 avenues of attack, you know, it's fine. So it's like this is one of those things where it's like if Eunited was would just be able to keep one section or one part of the wall, like at least one set of reinforcements closed, they'd be, in my opinion, they'd be winning these rounds because they'd be forcing SSG to push through doorways. But they never do. They can never stop SSG from opening something. And I can't help but think that that's just a mistake at a fundamental level in terms of operator selection. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because maybe they've scrimmed SSG enough to where they realize that if they play downstairs at all, they trade out inefficiently just to keep the bandit alive and the wall closed for as long as possible. That's the only thing that I can think of, is that they know that defending downstairs below lounge and trying to bandit juggle is a futile effort because SSG pinched down there so hard. They have 4 people. If you notice, they had 4 people go down there. Bosco at the front door, Fultz in stock, and Rampy at blue, so that they could execute that. So these are just my observations. And if you're coming into this video wondering me like, why is he trying to correct these guys? What does he know? Like, you're right. What do I know? I mean, I did play the game professionally, but I don't know everything. I don't know why certain decisions are made at any given time. I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of why certain things are happening or why certain decisions could be made. You know, just trying to analyze this as best I can. I still do, however, think it's a misplay to not impact trick the cache wall. So SSG are acting as if Bandit is in play every single time, so they're accounting for that utility being used for that purpose, which I kind of like. It's like, you know, keep them honest. Like, if you're gonna run Bandit, you're gonna run the risk of getting Zophia'd here. So Call Out and Yeti are playing inside a cache primarily to waste time. SSG are trying to pinch them, are trying to take control, and they take control as a team. If you notice SSG, they don't have random operators like across the map doing different things. Their entire team pushes as a whole. And that's because Thermite's the only hard breach, I think that's the most optimal way to play when only one hard breach is available. You have to all 5 push one thing at a time. And that can be very time consuming, but SSG have obviously perfected it to a point where like they can still get everything open that they want to in a timely fashion. So once again, Fultz gets an opening pick on a Claymore. Not sure where the Claymore was or where Alfama was when he died, but I'd imagine that it's a flank somewhere near where Fultz is. It's either like at the garage ladder, bottom of blue stairs, something. Coming in from master, who knows? Maybe it's even, you know, something cheeky like a claymore placed at a punch hole or something. And it just caught Alfama off guard. It happens. It happens even at the highest level of play. So right here, instead of rotating back around, and I think that they didn't rotate around because they were running short on time to open up the other wall, they opt to push directly into logistics and try to pinch. Unfortunately for EU, Callout gets a call out from his teammates that they're outside the gym windows and runs out and dies for nothing basically. And then SSG starts to push in to logistics. 2 of them get picked off, but Canadian and Thinkinator are there right next to each other to trade each other out, and they're following each other, basically holding hands. Unfortunately for Forrest, he got caught in the middle of a reload, and then Thinking Nate is able to pick off Grixer at the perfect position. I would have thought in this position here that Grixer would have been playing in the gym, holding an angle but instead he's playing in the hallway based off his teammate's call out. Bad timing for EU, great timing for SSG. Ultimately, they win that round as well. So here is actually a very interesting round coming up for Eunited and specifically for SSG. So basically during this round, Eunited set up what a lot of people consider to be the SSG roam. The SSG roam for the bottom floor of Clubhouse basically goes as follows. You pick Castle, Vigil, and Mute, and Mozzie, and I think the last operator can kind of be flexible however the team is feeling, but the general idea is you reinforce the jacuzzi walls, you reinforce the server walls, which Alfalma's doing right now, and then you open up the Moto hatch in bar, and you put a castle barricade where Callout is putting his wooden barricade. You put a castle barricade here and another castle barricade here. And then you roam. But you roam with the intention of wasting time and wasting utility. So basically, once the attackers have expended enough not only hard breach utility, but like soft destructive utility, maybe destroying castles or opening up certain angles, all the defenders have to do is drop down back into the objective and play time. In a 5v5 where the attackers might not know exactly where everyone is, because they have to drone out so much knowing that they're roaming so heavy. What's weird about this attack for me, coming from SSG, is even with only one hard breach, they opt to push into it. So as you can see, as soon as that wall gets opened up, Alfalma drops. And as soon as like one thermite was used, all of Eunited decided to retreat all back downstairs, because their objective was either to get picks and eat up soft destruction or stop SSG from being able to use both exothermic charges to open up avenues and angles into the objective itself. So now basically SSG is forced to only open one hatch or to open up one wall. But because the defenders backed off so soon, and because this is like SSG's roam, basically, they know how to deal with this scenario. They know that if the Moto hatch is already open and they're using various reinforcements off-site, other things are going to be soft. So they can exploit that weakness, because Eunited didn't stay upstairs long enough to shoot enough drones and waste enough time. So basically, with a minute left, SSG has all the control that they had as if Eunited had never roamed. And they don't have anybody available to flank anywhere. And they still have to cover multiple angles, if not more, because certain hatches were just opened up for the attackers for them. Yeti does get a nice pick onto Rampy here. This initially, which is something else I don't quite understand, Yeti getting the pick on the sledge in kitchen and the hatch staying closed means that technically one of the Eunited players could have played on the west side of kitchen, but they didn't, and Canadian decides that he's just going to open the wall anyway. And with a rotate opened up by Fultz from the main stairs into the back of the armory and the kitchen hatch open, from this position here, I wish it would give me a top down so I could show you guys, but basically from this position here, all you have to do is have one player watch dirt from the kitchen hatch and one player watch main stairs to cut off rotation, and you should win the round. But Eunited wins this round, and I'll show it from the top-down view so that you guys see what I'm talking about. So, right here. So Thinking Nade was playing at the main door trying to hold this hallway, right? Yeti is inside of dirt, and Fultz is holding Yeti inside of dirt. this hole either got opened by Fultz or by one of the defenders for this intended purpose. So it was a great play by Eunited and great callouts by Yeti to inform them of exactly what's going on, even though it was basically very predictable given the fact that the kitchen hatch got opened, the west side of Armory got cleared. This is where SSG is trying to plant. But Yeti playing inside of dirt as Pulse gives him all the intel in the world as to what's happening above in kitchen. So basically, Rampy got killed by the C4. Thinking Nade got killed from the Thinking Nade got killed at the main hallway, and there was a double up. So even if Grixer died, the Thinking Nade holding this angle, preventing the rotation of the defenders, which is what he's there for, Callout and Alfama are still there to stop it. So basically now, once Grixer gets that kill, Canadian trades out one, Callout gets another, Fultz gets one but can't, and then Bosco is trying to cover the hole left in the rotation by Thinking Nade's death. But unfortunately for him, he's just too late because of time, and E United win the round. So that was actually very well played by E United there. But now we have SSG going on defense now. And I think that you'll see what I'm talking about when it comes to some of these attacks. And one thing that I have to take note of, or that all the viewers should take note of during this video, is that Grixer not only is playing Ying on their first attack here, but played Ying on every single attacking round of Theme Park the game before. And he was really effective in certain rounds, but then not effective in others. And if you go back and watch that video, which I already have posted on my channel, you'll see what I'm talking about. But basically, SSG's defense is very bare bones. As you can see, they don't have a lot of flashy operators. The only non like year one operators they have are Wamai and Legion. Legion brings a lot to the defense on this map. Basically, gives the defenders the ability and to have intel on certain various locations that they might not actually be playing, namely the main hallway, the top of blue stairs, the blue oil pit, inside of dirt. They can put a Legion mine at each hatch drop and know if anyone drops a hatch. Legion is very good here, especially since Valk is banned and Maestro's banned as well. And since Echo is not available, there's very limited intel for the defenders in this instance to actually utilize to gain any kind of knowledge as to what's going on around the map. So Legion is an excellent pick here. All the rest of the picks seem pretty normal and standard to me. Wamai to, soak up flashbangs and yings, Capitals, Jaeger to soak up the same kinds of utility minus the Capitals, and then, the rest is all just either keeping the kitchen hatch closed, which Rampy can do, or smoking off the plant or delaying with the smoke. So it seems all pretty standard to me. So basically, E United starts taking map control, pretty normal. They open up blue, and then I think they open up dirt as well. And the purpose for this is because if they open up blue hatch and force Thinking Nade out of blue, and then push through dirt, the players that are playing inside of the armory are pinched, and they have to fall back to the west side of the armory or the church. And they basically want to try to plant at this dummy spot here. The spot is called Dummies by the third box. And but they also at the same time want to clear out the west side of the armory by breaching in kitchen above. So it forces all of the defenders out of those two locations inside of armory and into church. And once they're there, they can't deny the plant. And in order to accomplish this, they have to pinch from oil pit. They have to come down blue stairs. They have to hold main stairs so that nobody can rotate up and flank them, and they cut off in between the objectives. And they have to push from dirt. So they have to attack from all of those locations basically at the same time. And that's where Ying comes in and is very effective here. So they're basically going to Thatcher above blue and then Ying in and push while the defenders are blind, is the plan. They got Alfalma just trying to cover himself in Moto. They know that they can't open the Moto hatch, and then he's going to push across. He starts getting hit and then backs off a little bit, but that's all a distraction because as the Ying starts going off, what are these defenders supposed to do? And now they know that Rampy is in blue. Yeti's planting exactly where I said that they would want to. There's no rotate in blue, so they don't have to worry about that. It's basically now just hold angles and wait because they know where the last defenders are. They know one is in dirt, and they know the other one has to come from church. So at the end of the day, Alfalma sacrificed his life to distract the defenders in Armory so that the rest of the push could work. And that's the kind of team play that you want to see out of a team. That's what Alfalma's not going to complain about dying there because he died for a purpose. He definitely, died with the intention that his team was going to win the round based off of his sacrifice because it worked. The rest of his team, the rest of SSG was not looking at blue at all. I don't even think they knew that Ying was on the board unless they heard her gun go off. But there's no telling where she's coming from because they have no intel to tell you exactly which op is coming from what direction. And I know a lot of you might think knowing which op is coming from where, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But to the pro players, it is a huge factor in how they're going to defend. Because now they're bringing a Warden. But in order for Warden to be effective, they have to know where the Ying is going to be coming from in order to position him appropriately. That's just an example. But SSG are now defending, Master Bedroom and Cache. And this is what I want to point out. The difference between what SSG does and what EU does for defending this site is there's a couple things. One, SSG has brought a Warden because Eunited keeps bringing Ying. And the other is that they're bringing Mute Jammers and Vigil to play inside of Cache. The idea here is that Rampy can deny map control from Eunited by playing in this location, being difficult to drone out, and on top of that, being able to use impact grenades to stop the Cache wall from getting opened. Because if you take note here, the server wall is not reinforced. So they're basically giving up this position for free. But as long as there's a defender playing in this area, the attackers can always be flanked from here, no matter what. There's no telling when Rampy's going to swing out here. There's no telling, how effective he's going to be in this position. So the attackers have to treat him as if he is a threat to their entire push as a whole. Unless they want to attack from the other side, which doesn't give them a lot of options. So basically, Fultz and Rampy are setting up so that they can, hold this position. Fultz is going to be playing near construction and logistics. Canadian's going to be playing inside of logistics itself until the hatch gets opened up, until he retreats into the hallway to watch the drop down, or into another position to at least hold an angle. But basically with Rampy playing in this position, a lot of utility is going to get expended from Eunited that they won't be able to use on their actual push, and it's all going to be for nothing because Rampy is just going to impact grenade the thermite. Now you might think in this position here, oh, he's thermiting the floor. To the EU players' minds, this is going to stop Rampy from impact tricking the thermite off the wall, and it will still open the bottom of the wall, which they can utilize angles to potentially kill Rampy afterwards. But Rampy knows an angle to throw to where instead of it landing on the roof and the explosion going down, it lands on the server and explodes outward and stops the thermite anyway. So basically, United just wasted a thermite for nothing, and they've almost wasted a minute and a half, and they're nowhere near closer to actually attacking the objective and getting a plant down. But basically, Grixer is going to throw a Ying and a smoke in and try to push But guess who was there? Warden. Warden can see through smoke if he stands still. So this hold by SSG is very well thought out, and all they have to do is interchange a couple of operators because it's basically the same idea. But, Warden is Ying's direct counter to all of her utility, so they're going to be able to stop it. They are going to get the Jacuzzi wall open, however, but they're so low on time, and they have so much ground to cover and drone, and there's also mute jammers in their way that there's no way that United can gain enough intel, especially with Fultz relocating with a shield into the bathroom. Now he's just anchoring in this position, and this is a normal position that any defender would want to play in once the Jacuzzi wall gets opened up. Because you can't safely plant anywhere in Master if there's a defender in the bathroom. So basically, SSG is just crossing their T's and dotting their I's in terms of all of their positions and everything that they're trying to accomplish with this defense. So Fultz, once again, getting another frag. Callout does trade him out, but they're, in a man disadvantage and they can't cover all the angles, so they end up losing the round. So, they lost utility trying to push the site. The single hard breach hurt Eunited more than it hurt SSG, and these are just small indicators that, like, these are just small indicators to show how good SSG is. Because Eunited is not a bad team, but there are certain things that their attacks on both maps, Theme Park and Clubhouse, were lacking that SSG's just didn't. And then on defense, it's this kind of the same thing. There's just a few key components that SSG's defense had that United's didn't. So this is once again one of those things where SSG is going to bring Warden to counter the Ying. And, it's just an interesting dynamic across this entire matchup is that, I'm pretty sure United could potentially be the only team that we actually see running a Ying. Now, I have yet to see the Sonics versus Dark Zero match yet, which is what's happening tonight right now as I'm recording this. I am going to go back and watch it. I just finished watching Disrupt and Oxygen play, which was a pretty exciting affair, and I'll get more into that when I cover that match on the channel itself. But, basically, SSG feeling good about the position that they're in. They should be feeling good. They're up 5-3. They're defending the easiest bomb site to defend on this map, given the operators that they have. And now that they know that Eunited is going to commit to this Ying play on attack every single round, they know to bring the Warden, which basically nullifies it and makes it into like, Eunited's gunplay versus SSG's gunplay in a sense, as opposed to utility that gives you an advantage overall. Because how hard is it to shoot enemies that can't see, right? Now, if any of the stuff that I'm covering in any of my videos you guys have questions about, feel free to leave comments or like DM me on Twitter or something about anything that I talk about. Like if I talk about something and you guys just like it just goes over your head, you don't understand what I'm referring to, or you don't understand why certain operators are doing certain things and I'm not talking about it in the video, feel free to just message me and I'll explain it to you. Because I just don't want to get too technical, because I feel like the only people that are going to watch these videos are either like players who already understand the game enough to want to learn more, or players that, want to try to understand like what's going on with these strategies and take like a closer look at it. But basically, in this position here, United are opening the Moto hatch and trying to open up the church wall. But SSG is just going to impact trick the thermites, which is why SSG didn't go for any of these walls initially. Like, you might think that with a thermite in play, that opening up the church wall is the best line of attack. Like, opening Moto and opening church, like, oh, it's a no-brainer. No, SSG's thought of that. That's why they bring the Rook. That's why they bring multiple sets of impact grenades to try to keep the kitchen hatch and the church wall closed. And you have to commend them for making things look so simple. Like, this game is very simple at its core. The thing that complicates it the most, honestly, is the players, because there's certain fundamentals that never go away, but the players just sometimes want to overcomplicate things, and I feel like that's something that is happening with Eunited in a way. There's nothing wrong, however, with them impacting into Arsenal and pushing, but they don't have the coverage. If instead of opening up the Moto hatch, they opened up dirt and pushed from dirt and did this exact same push with dirt open, they would win the round. And they almost win the round here, amazingly. But this is where we see, Bosco just coming in with a immaculate clutch. Like taking the 1v1 while the plant is down, having some kind of intel or hearing something to give him the indication that Forrest is going to be in the hallway. It could have even been the default cam in the hallway. There's no telling whether or not the attackers even took that out. Or a Legion mine going off, anything like that. United almost won that based on crossfires established at the main door into the main hallway. And actually, I'm going to look back at that just so I can more clearly explain exactly what happened. So it's a 4v4. Rampy got picked off. Alfalma kills Canadian, who was playing Warden, but Warden got call out. And then Forrest starts pushing in from blue and kills 2 players with a great play. That was amazing. That was a fantastic play. But this is what happened. Forrest does hit a goo mine, I'm pretty sure, because he lost health for no reason. And then Bosco's just able to come around from Moto and win the round. So ultimately an unlucky round for Eunited, but a great round for SSG and a great play by Bosco. Because Forrest made the play. Forrest made the play coming through blue. But it just wasn't enough, unfortunately, for them. So that should have been a United round. From a gunplay standpoint, that should have been an United round. From a technical theory crafted setup, that should have been an SSG round. If you guys can follow where I'm going with that. So this round coming up is actually a very interesting round, and I'll explain why. SSG decides to bring Bandit. They look at United's operator lineup, and they saw the Ying. They 6-pick to the Warden, but United 6-pick to Capital. So basically, they brought the Bandit under the assumption that Capital wouldn't be available, so they 6-pick to the Warden to counter that. But really, they actually don't have the counter that they need to keep Bandit alive. Because one of the easiest ways to get Bandit off of the CC wall is utilizing Capital at the server window. So that was a really good play by Eunited already at the start of this round to 6-pick off of the Ying to basically nullify the effect that Warden would have on the round. Because if there's no Ying in play and Warden is brought, Warden isn't really that useful. Like, yes, he can still see through smokes. He's not completely useless, but now he doesn't really have something that can help his team. It only helps him. So I thought that was very well played by Eunited in terms of the mind games of Pro League. But I still like the Bandit play being brought. And I think that it's kind of like what SSG and United both needed earlier in the match. So right now we see Rampy playing near the bedroom window, potentially to go for some kind of a run out based on off of a teammate's cue to say like, "Hey, jump out! They're outside the server window," because that's what they have to watch out for. They have to try to keep the wall closed for as long as possible. But Eunited has already taken top garage control, and I'm not quite sure why SSG gave up garage control so easily. But now it's prompted Eunited to open up the CC wall and open up the lounge wall so that they can't get flanked, which I like. That's good. That's good, adaptive use of what you have available because they don't want to attack from the other side. They do not want to separate as a team. They need to be close enough to trade with each other. And if they all stick close to each other and watch each other's flanks, there shouldn't be any reason that they can't trade and plant. So basically, they have top garage control. Alfama's watching flank. They got two outside the wall. So Grixer and Force are going to expend utility so that the Thermite call out that's playing outside the wall can run in and plant, and Yeti can cover him from outside the wall while Alfama watches flank and Grixer and Force hold various angles. So first, smoke the stairs, firebolt so the defenders can't run through, smoke the CC door, and then start to plant. They actually plant in an unorthodox position. They plant right at the wall, knowing that there's no intel to call out where the plant's going down. They plant right at the wall, and that throws off SSG completely. But now Rampy is actually flanking through the garage as Vigil and is basically the only operator that could potentially, flank without being noticed. So I'm really surprised that one, Rampy's able to flank like that and get through past Alfama's drone and get the kills, but I'm even more impressed with the fact that Fultz can run out of stock and kill two repelling attackers. Like, that's just crazy. That just takes such gun skill. And then on top of that, Grixer with an amazing triple kill on the round, right as there wouldn't have been enough time for the defenders to defuse to win the round as the rest of the defense tries to push in and go for it. Like, there were so many aspects to this round that were impressive on both sides that just made it a very, very entertaining round to watch. But I think that the craziest thing is that Rampy as Vigil was able to sneak into Garage while Alfama was probably most likely still on the drone that we saw in Lounge watching flank. That's just crazy. It's crazy how certain things like that happen. So if I'm remembering correctly, I believe that this is the last round that gets played. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't want to skip forward and be wrong. No, yeah, this is the last round that gets played. So basically, overall, this was a good match. United definitely played with the cards they were dealt. It's not easy to play against the world champs, but they're the world champs for a reason. And I think it's pretty obvious that SSG's attacks were much stronger than United's in comparison to each side's defense. So for this round, something that I wasn't quite understanding here is I don't quite understand why SSG opted to now make the rotate at the top of main stairs. Like why deviate from a strategy that was so effective before to one that didn't work for the opposite side? And the only thing I can imagine is that they're trying to throw E United off any way that they can. And I think that it primarily comes down to this. It comes down to a mind game. If the attack that E United used before that got impact trick and they couldn't push in and all that stuff, if that happens again, they're screwed. Because it's on match point, E United decide, okay, we have to get the jacuzzi wall open. That's the most important wall because it kind of is. And what we're going to do is we're going to open the construction wall and hold flank from the rappel. So if there's any defenders playing on the east side of the map, they're cut off from this angle being held from the rappel. So call out goes to open up the construction wall, and now eventually we will see a player on Eunited play this position on the rappel waiting. And then the rest of the team is going to push the jacuzzi wall and the windows. And through logistics, actually. I think logistics is the way that they ultimately decide to push. But now they have the wall open. Bandit keeps the bathroom wall closed, but there's nothing for them to open it with, so he's really just putting the bandits down to be annoying to the attackers. But they're going to ying in through the logistics hatch. Forrest is going to hold the angle on the construction rappel, and they're going to try to push in and, go for something here. Grixer is being a huge distraction. This is where callout, like right now, callout needs to be much more aggressive. And I don't see the purpose of having Alfalma come through the construction window and push that door if Forrest is out here on this rappel. This is what I'm talking about. Let's rewind it ever so slightly so we can give like a more top-down view. So right here, Forrest is holding this rappel. Rampy cannot come back. He has to flank all the way around to main stairs. I don't see the point of Alfalma coming in through the construction window just to give Rampy this free frag. What really either needs to happen is he needs to push through the wall while Grixer is causing like so much havoc over here. I assumed his idea would be to push through this doorway to get an angle here, but he can accomplish so much more with his team like pushing in various other locations, even holding an angle on the main stairs. Could you imagine if a player on E United was just outside holding an angle on the main stairs while Grixer is pushing in here? Where are these players going to go? If there is a player on the main stairs, he has to run all the way back downstairs, and now Grixer has free roam along with two. So like the idea here would be Forrest holds rotation here. One player's outside here with the inevitability of rotating up main stairs to help the push, and then the other three players push through the wall and either try to get into gym or come around and kill the players in bathroom. I just can't help but think that some of the positioning by E United for this attack, like the idea is fantastic. The idea is great. The idea works. The execution, not so much. And with Alfalma dying, they stall out. If this push was one fluid motion of just push, I feel like they would win the round very easily. But a good push in from Callout takes down Thinking Nade. Yeti and Thinking Nade, waiting for Alfalma to flank because that's where he should be. Bosco gets one and is traded out by Callout. And now, if Forrest wins the gunfight there at construction, E United would have the freedom to plant. But he either got impatient or he felt like he had to move or something and lost the fight. So SSG wins. I hope that you guys enjoyed my analysis. I will bring you guys Tempo Storm versus TSM either tomorrow or the next day. Thank you for watching.